No matter how pretty it looks, how loud the exhaust rumbles, how excited you get about the car, if it doesn't have these things, I suggest you walk away. It's just not worth the risk. I've been around this car game long enough and I've seen it many times. If you miss just one of these things, it can cost you thousands. I'm talking about the VIN number, the title and registration, and the trim tag. And if you don't know what these are or why they matter, don't worry, I've got you. Stick with me for a few minutes and I'll break them down in plain English. No Gearhead dictionary needed. Also, before we dive in, grab my free classic car inspection checklist. It's the exact checklist I use when I'm looking at a car for sale. Print it out, bring it with you, and never buy blind again. You'll find a link right below this video. First up, the VIN, the vehicle identification number. Think of it like the car's social security number. Every car has one. If it doesn't, be concerned. Generally, we're going to look for a VIN number that's clearly displayed. It's going to be in different places on many different cars. On this Corvette, for example, it's right here on the pillar. A lot of cars are going to have it right here on the dash. I'll show you a couple other VIN locations and talk about how that's so important. So for example, on this C10 truck, the VIN is in the door jamb. You want to look for clean factory rivets. You're looking for signs that it hasn't been replaced. This one, the rivets look a little fishy to me and it's been painted behind it, so that's a sign that that VIN number has been off. So you want to check and make sure that that VIN matches your paperwork. On something like this 57 Chevy, you're going to find the VIN number here inside the door jamb, actually on the door hinge pillar. This one looks pretty legit. And like on this Camaro, a lot of later years cars, starting in the 68 and later, if I'm not mistaken, especially GMs, you're going to have a VIN number on the dash. Generally, it's going to be covered up by part of the dash pad, but you should see a clear VIN number there. And then if you can, you want to try to look and see if the rivets look like they've ever been changed. We're looking for any hint that the VIN number, if it actually is there like it's supposed to be, has not been tampered with. You want to make sure that you've got a clean VIN that matches your paperwork every single time. If you buy a car that has a tampered VIN, it's very possible that it's either been rebodied, right? Somebody took this VIN number off of this rusty Camaro and took it and put it on a different car. It could be a stolen car. It might be like an aftermarket rebodied car as well. So you just want to make sure that it's got a real VIN number on it. Even a really nicely restored car with a tampered VIN can turn out to be a complete legal nightmare and financial drain. In any of these cases, there's going to be a massive dip in the value of your car if it's been tampered with. In fact, one time, a buddy of mine bought a 68 Firebird convertible. It had a VIN number on it. It was a project car kind of like this, a little bit nicer. And it came with a pink slip. We matched the pink to the VIN number. Perfect, right? Everything's all good. Tow the car back to his shop. He actually did all the body work and painted it. I wound up putting a nice brand new motor, subframe, started on the interior, and then he finally went to go register it. For some reason, he was able to buy the car with a pink slip and a VIN number, but the seller wasn't authorized to sell it. Apparently, the guy was in jail. The wife sold the car while he was gone, had transferred the title, and he still got screwed. So we wound up giving the car back to the guy, painted. Luckily, we got to take the motor and everything out. But you got to make sure paperwork is so important on these cars. Check your VIN. If it doesn't have a VIN, if you can't compare it with DMV, with your local police department or some other jurisdiction, be ready to walk away. Next up is title and registration. I know it's paperwork, it's not sexy, but you better make sure you have it. We know this is kind of obvious, but trust me, pay attention, it's important. We want to make sure that we've got an actual pink slip with an actual VIN number that matches our vehicle. The point being, anytime you buy a car that's got paperwork or registration that's in somebody else's name, or, oh, I forgot to bring the paperwork, or I have a bill of sale, or I bought it from somebody else and I didn't get to register it yet. That can be okay, but you need to be ready for any headaches that might arise from that. You need to make sure that you're going to be able to transfer that car. So to that end, anytime you buy a car, even if the paperwork is crystal clear, I recommend that you go to the DMV and get the car transferred into your name as soon as possible. A great example is this truck. So they're willing to get rid of this cab here, but it does not have an actual VIN number on the truck. It's got some weird ID tag from New York, but I'm not interested. It's got too much work, right-hand drive. I'm gonna pass on this one and keep looking at some of these other cars here. I'll take a moment here to show you a couple things on my title here in California for my convertible Camaro. You want to make sure, obviously we talked about that the VIN number is on there, right? That's proper and matches the car. On this case, it says title only because I haven't registered the car yet. Normally, it's going to show that it's registered. In this corner here, we've got a square in California that says vehicle history. So I'm looking to see that it doesn't say something like salvaged. If you've got a salvage title, you can expect that that car has either been stolen, crashed, in a flood, something like that. And a salvage title generally is going to really hurt value. And lastly, using this example, mine says CV. So my 69 Camaro is a convertible. If it doesn't say CV right there, we start to wonder, was the car really a convertible, or did somebody mess up the title or the paperwork at some point? So you want to make sure a convertible should say convertible, make sure the VIN number is clear, make sure everything's legible, make sure it's in your name, and most importantly, make sure there's no lien holder on the title, because a lot of the times they'll show a lien holder here and you have to make sure that they get paid off before you can register or transfer the car in your name. And don't underestimate how important it is to look at the registration. You want to know if the car has back fees, any parking tickets. It helps you know a history of who owned it last, who does possibly own it now, and if you're going to have any surprise fees that you're going to be encumbered with. But hey, it's all on the checklist, so go grab it if you haven't already. It's helped save a lot of people a lot of headaches and a lot of money. All right, we've made it back over to my shop, and I want to show you what's next step is the trim tag. So there's a big misconception that this trim tag, or in this case what's called a cowl tag, a lot of people think that this number here is supposed to match the VIN number, and in most cases do your homework on your particular vehicle, but it's not supposed to match. In my case it says 12467, which tells me 12467, which is the first 5 on my VIN. That simply tells me that this is a V8 car. Other than that, your trim tag is generally going to be what you're going to use to determine that the car is what you think it is and to help you understand the value of that car. So the trim tag is exactly that. It's a tag that tells you options such as body color, body type. Oftentimes it may tell you what type of engine came with the car and some of the options that were on the car. So it's not necessary for registration. You can actually buy a car with a missing trim tag. That's not a big deal. But if you're trying to have a bona fide, rare, numbers matching car, you want to make sure that you have a trim tag. On this Nova, he does have a trim tag, but you can't see it, so it might as well not be there, right? Somebody did all of this custom metal work and left the trim tag there. A trim tag really does help you to document what the car is. Speaking of this car, this reminds me of another story. This car came from out of state and he went to register it and they wanted to see the VIN number in 2 places. Generally speaking, when you bring a car in from out of state or maybe out of the country, when you go to register or transfer title, they're going to want to have the vehicle verified by either a DMV, which is a Department of Motor Vehicles, a highway patrol, a police officer, or even a third-party VIN verifier. So what you want to make sure is that they're going to be able to see the primary VIN number and you're going to have all your paperwork with you, but in a lot of cases they're going to want to see what's called a secondary VIN number. So in this case we had to pull the cowl panel off in order to get a secondary VIN verified. A lot of these cars are going to have that inside the trunk jamb, maybe under the cowl panel, behind the heater, or on the frame rail. If you're going to register a car from out of state or out of the country, make sure you've got that. Additionally, you may have to be subject to things like a brake and light inspection or a safety inspection, depends on where you live. So make sure you do your homework to understand what it's going to cost and what it's going to take. So these 2 Mopars right here are a great example of what I'm talking about when I talk about the trim tag. So on this Challenger convertible project, it's a total resto mod Pro Touring type build with a modern Hemi type setup in it. So I don't really care about it having the trim tag on it, right? If it said trim tag info, it would be like 318, automatic, etc. I don't care. This car is going to be totally custom, so it's going to have this motor, a 6-speed, and the options that came factory on it now are irrelevant, but it does have a clear VIN. If you come over to this Charger, this 69 Charger is a great example of a very detailed trim tag. So I don't know if these screws are correct on this trim tag, but what I'm showing you here is all of the different options are laid out on the trim tag. So you can see a ton about the car, its pedigree, what it's supposed to have, where it was made, all types of things like that. This is a build sheet. This came out of a 78 Trans Am that's here at the shop, and you don't usually find them in a car. You can see this one is so worn out because they either came on top of the gas tank underneath the car, or else they were under the back seat. So both places seem like a lousy idea to me because they're always beat up. They've totally been weathered, lost, or ruined. But in this case, you can see it breaks down so much about the car. You'll actually see the VIN number, and I can match that to that car to prove that that goes to that car. And then from there, I totally see pedigree, right? It tells me what size engine I've got. It tells me what transmission it came with. It goes all the way down to did it have posi, T-tops, all types of things like this. So what I'm getting at, anytime you can get like a good cowl or trim tag, if you can get something like this build sheet to document your car, Chevy made what's called a protecto plate. Anytime you can find those things, those are really going to help you to confirm your car is what you expect it to be, especially important when you're doing a high dollar, rare numbers match type car. So you want to make sure that the options are legit, that the car's legit, check the VIN numbers, check the engine numbers, and just see that everything jives. So you should be able to trust the numbers, but also do a double check. You want to look and see that it has the right trim package that it's supposed to. If you know that this car is going to be an RT SE, then we want to make sure that it has the appropriate items that are supposed to be on there, right? If you've got a Chevelle Super Sport, Camaro Super Sport, something like that, it's got to have a 12-bolt rear end. If you've got a Camaro that's a rally sport, you want to make sure that it has the rear backup lights down below. If it's a Super Sport, you want to make sure it's got the Super Sport hood. Obviously, these things can be changed, but keep in mind, people have been cloning these cars since like the day they were made, so it's on you to authenticate that your car is really what you think it is before you buy it. So just remember, it's always buyer beware, right? You want to make sure that the car is what you're expecting. It's not just dressed up to be something that it's not. So if the car doesn't have these three things, you better think long and hard if this is the right car for you. If it doesn't have a clear, untampered, visible VIN, be ready to walk away. If it doesn't have a title in the seller's name with the adequate paperwork for you to be able to transfer it into your name, be ready to walk away, because you don't want to be stuck with a car that you can't title, register, or even sell. You might just be stuck with it. And lastly, make sure that car is what you expect it to be, right? That's why we look at the trim tag, the cowl tag, or any of the other identifiers to make sure that the car is what we think it is. You want to make sure when you're buying these cars that you're buying it right. To that end, make sure you download our free classic car inspection checklist. It'll help you recognize all of these signs when you go look at a car yourself. Don't just go by memory. Take the list, use it, and buy it right.